Welcome to the Movie Club's December edition. I'm so happy to be welcoming Josh, Brand, and James. And today we'll be talking about Die Hard, directed by John McTiernan, who also directed Predator and The Hunt for Red October, amongst others, starring Bruce Willis, who at this point only had two lead roles, 1 year before in Blind Date and the same year in Sunset. But he was on TV, on the TV show Moonlighting. And glad we're going to dive into this movie. Going to figure out some questions here, answering those questions. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is it a great movie or a good movie? Is it a paradigm change or is it not? I'm happy to be playing devil's advocate here. I gave you guys a heads up earlier in the thread. I'm taking over that role if I have to. I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think anyone here does, but let's go through the rows. Josh, how many times have you watched it? Have you only watched it during Christmas time? And what are your overall thoughts?
I remember it was just like an action film. Everyone kind of agreeing that it's a Christmas movie, which it is. I've seen this movie countless times. Like I know it backwards, forwards, sideways, in and out. So I have lost count how many times I've seen this movie.
How about you, Brand?
I've also seen this one a few times, more times than I should probably admit to. It's probably one of my favorite action movies ever made. And I also think it's a Christmas movie. I don't think it's the best Christmas movie as far as like it goes, but I think it's like one of the best action movies ever made. And I do have a lot to say about it as far as it being like a paradigm shift for the genre as a whole, especially for the time it came out.
James, how about you?
I don't know how many times I watched it. I mean, I lost count. And it is a Christmas movie.
Awesome. I didn't watch it when it came out. I think I watched it probably in my early 20s, the first few times, probably maybe 2 or 3 times. And I haven't watched it in forever until now. And then I watched it about a week ago to prepare for the movie club.
Did you watch all of them?
No, I did not watch all of them. If we had talked about 3, I would have watched 1, 2, or 3.
I don't know if I want to be here or not.
I did not give myself the pleasure of watching 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I watched 4 even when it came out at the movies. So I watched that when it came out on the big screen. I remember telling myself I don't really have to watch this movie ever again.
I'm assuming though, to prepare for tonight, you watched all of Family Matters
and that episode of Twilight Zone that he debuted in.
Because the kid that he killed is Oko.
I did try to find the novels. They're not available on Audible, and I didn't have enough time to get a novel shipped here in that 1.5 weeks that we had time to prepare.
Ask me, I would have found you a copy of it.
And overnighted for like $100. No, but so the movie is based on a sequel novel, Nothing Lasts Forever, written in 1979. So the adaptation then, so apparently, again, I haven't read the novel. Based on what I've read, is that the movie is pretty close to the novel. The novel itself, again, a sequel to another novel called The Detective that had their own movie adaptation, nothing to do with Die Hard. And then Die Hard 2 is also based on a novel that has nothing to do with the other novels that are basically the basis for the first one. So lots of novel-based material here.
I do know the big change from the novel to the movie, instead of being a husband-wife, it was a father-daughter.
Father-daughter, yeah.
Like I think he was freshly retired. Like he was way up there in age.
I think the two main changes. So one is, his daughter. He's waiting for his daughter to finish the Christmas party. So he's just hanging out, basically waiting for her to like give her a ride, making sure she's safe. And then the attackers. I don't want to call them terrorists. We can get into that like in a little bit, but I don't think they're terrorists. But in the novel, they are. I believe associated with the Chilean. No, sorry, not the attackers. The corporation. So the attackers are still German. The corporation they're working for is a oil corporation that has some shady business in Chile that have helped to like install like dictatorship there. So, some political stuff going on. So they're not really clean. Which we can talk about that here as well, what they tried with the Japanese corporation and that angle. But what do you like most about it? So where do you want to start? Want to talk about the action? Want to talk about the paradigm shift?
I'll start just because I've been wanting to say this. For the time this movie came out, it was like assumed like it was going to fail because it had like Bruce Willis in the lead role. In fact, he wasn't even the first, second, or third choice for this. They wanted Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead role, and they both declined. They wanted Harrison Ford. He declined. They wanted so many different like your typical action movie actors to like work on this movie. All of them declining. Bruce Willis, a comedian at this time, and known for like moonlighting and stuff like leading action movies, accepted the role, and it became his defining movie. I think Alan Rickman, he hasn't really had like before this. This is like his first major like film role, and
This
now
was
he's
his
known for this.
This was his first movie because he did stage production.
That's what I mean, though. Like this is like his first movie.
Yeah,
Like,
well, you said major, but this was his very first movie.
I know he made like on-screen appearances, like in like one other thing though.
So the role like the role was offered, as you said, to so many others. So it's basically just Bruce Willis got it because no one else wanted it, right? And that's why they threw like $5 million at him as well, which at this time was like unheard of for someone who's never really been in. I mean, he made 2 movies, but they kind of at the same time when he was offered the role, he was really just in moonlighting. And to go from TV to the big screen, you weren't just offered $5 million. I guess that was part of the. No one else wants it. Like Stallone didn't want it. Harrison Ford denied. Mel Gibson, Paul Newman, Richard Gere, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, Don Johnson. Like all of them, like no, I don't want to make this movie. And then it's like, well, we got to find someone. They found Bruce Willis, and I guess they had to sweeten the deal so he wouldn't decline as well and give him $5 million.
And now Die Hard is like seen as like it had so many copies for years afterwards that Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a hockey rink. These are all like stuff that like curved from this movie.
I was going to
say,
Mark Hop.
The other thing, because we're talking about the paradigm switch, because the big thing in like the late in the 80s, and this film came out in the 90s, but was like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, buff, jacked, like half naked dudes. Never, I don't know, maybe they have a scratch or something, but it's like Harrison Ford with Indiana Jones, but he wasn't like what really dominated the 80s were those big action films like Commando, Over the Top. So to also have Bruce Willis, who it's like, this guy, he doesn't look like he could take down a terrorist. He looks like a normal dude. Like that was another big shift too.
He's the everyman. He's throughout this movie like constantly like yelling at himself, like giving himself like commentary. The entire time he's like bleeding out, like his feet are like have glass all over the Spoilers if you have not seen Die Hard yet. Watch Die Hard.
Honestly,
so we're just a few minutes in, but I'm wondering if I should like play devil's advocate here a little bit, because you say like has never been done before. It was never like So I didn't watch Die Hard 2, 3, 4, and 5, but I went another route and rewatched other stuff that came out before that, just to see how much of a paradigm shift this was. So how much different is it then to stuff like Lethal Weapon?
Because Lethal Weapon, you had Mel Gibson and Donald Glover, and Donald Glover, in his case, he's like a retired, like almost trying to retire a cop. He's like almost the trope of like, 2 days from retirement, getting there up in years, and he has Mel Gibson who's like loose cannon type of cop. He's basically super cop.
Also, yeah, I was about to say Mel Gibson is Jack in that movie. Like, there's plenty of like
more than Bruce Willis.
Pop thing too.
He's just mental, but he's not really super strength. He's a nutcase. But
it's not like the everyman. Not every man was going to be Mel Gibson.
Also, Bruce Willis, like
that's a good thing.
He was going bald too. Like his wasn't at the greatest hairline either, which is like that was unheard of as well.
I mean, but again, they weren't muscle packed like action stars like Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Those were all kind of regular. If you see them on the street, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is like this bodybuilder, muscle type action star. They're like, Mel Gibson at this time wasn't packed with muscle. It's like there are also everyday men, and yeah, they are active duty cops. But so was Bruce Willis in Die Hard. He's also a cop. He's not any man. Like he's still a cop. He's traveling from New York to LA, but he's still a cop. Like so we're
asking for help from other cops. Like he's asking Al, like the Family Matters cop. He's asking him like for like help the entire time. He's like basically like trying to humanize himself the entire movie. He's like talking about his wife. He's talking about how much like I told her like I love her so many times, but I never said I'm sorry. Like that kind of humanizing stuff that you really don't see in action movies. You never really got that in Commando. You got one-liners.
So Rick's in Lethal Weapon, he has a wife that died. I know they're not like there's no dysfunctional marriage like what John has, but he has like a dead wife. He tries to get over her, and there's so many other parallels that I feel Die Hard copied a lot from Lethal Weapon.
I don't see that at all.
So Lethal Weapon came out a bit over a year before Die Hard. So by the time Die Hard started production, Lethal Weapon was already out. So they must have seen it. It's also a Christmas.
Wait a minute, sir. If you're going to play devil's advocate, at least get your facts right. Lethal Weapon, 1987. Die Hard, 1990. So it was 3 years, not 1 year.
Die Hard came out in 1988.
Die Hard came out in 8. Yeah.
Well, Google told me 1990. Also,
and filming of Die Hard took place between November 1987 and March 1988.
It was released in July 1998.
Also, I should point out, John McTiernan also directed Predator, right? That's the one movie you can point to and go like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is getting his ass kicked by the Predator a lot in this movie. In fact, a lot of the typical action movie heroes are getting their ass kicked in this movie by the Predator. So much so that like Arnie has to think smart and not just use brute force to like save the day and get himself out of the situation. Also, I feel like those lessons were later took for Die Hard too.
No, I get
too, but like Die Hard later.
Also, the year before or 2 years before with Mel Gibson, we had Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with Tina Turner. He's a well-known actor compared to Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah, it's not about whether the actor is well-known or not. It's more the kind of movie. And to me, it felt Die Hard took some liberty, like something of that movie. So Lethal Weapon, also Christmas theme. There is the same type of like movie. You put Christmas themes in an action movie and call it a Christmas movie. You see a woman jumping off a skyscraper, landing on a car. You have the snippy comment situation. You have a helicopter. You have Gibson also being afraid of the torture. So it's not this like Stallone type of like, I'm not afraid of anything kind of action star, but you have this like kind of fear of pain.
See,
So it's kind of like it's of course Die Hard did it way better. It's a way better movie. It's just to me this like reinvented the genre. It's like did it though? Like you have Dirty Harry came out. What is it? It's in the mid 70s. Like you had already the action or like the action movie star that had like made funny comments and stuff. Of course, he wasn't as involved. He wasn't ripping his shirt off, or like he wasn't getting dirty and stuff. Even though he was called that, but that's kind of started that trend. And you have other movies that went into that direction. Die Hard did it perfectly in the execution part, but the theme itself, the genre itself, I kind of was on that path already.
Okay, one, no one's saying like Die Hard invented everything. But what Die Hard did well,
people do.
What Die Hard did well, though, because I would even say, yeah, humanizing, because you never see in any movie prior like the main character like pulling glass out of himself, wincing, covered in blood. Like that never happens. Like Commando, even in Lethal Weapon, yeah, they might be bleeding, but it's like they're still going 100%. Like they don't stop.
And the intro, he's like afraid of flying too, because he's like ripping the seat and like asking like the stereotypical 80s businessman is like beside him, like, you know, what really helps is like if you ball your feet into like a fist. And he actually takes that advice, like, well, hot damn, that actually does work. Like, he's like, and he also comments on like stuff he sees. Like, if you happen to see like a Playboy poster like on the wall somewhere, you use that as like a point of reference.
Now, granted, because the big thing with Lethal Weapon was the whole diplomatic immunity. Like that was a big thing, you know, that hadn't been thought of before.
Well, plus the buddy cop thing, because Lethal Weapon, you could say it's like 48 hours, or it's like Tango and Cash, or like any other like buddy cop, like tag team cop comedy. But it's like that would also be unfair Lethal Weapon, because I feel like it does enough stuff different in that movie to be different than 48 hours and stuff like that.
That's the one thing I'd give Die Hard. You kind of have a very precise, or not precise, a very specific scenery, right? You have this, what you mentioned, Die Hard in a bus is speed, Die Hard on a mountain is cliffhanger. Like you have this one man against all odds in one location. So in Lethal Weapon, you change location, you have the whole city, but you are like in this building and you have to work with what you have where you are. So I think Die Hard started that trend, and of course it helped because it was copied a lot by so many other movies that it kind of put Die Hard on this pedestal of okay, this movie kind of shifted it in that direction. You have like the one man show, last man standing in one set location.
Well, and it's also, I think my two favorite things with Die Hard, everything gets set up perfectly and there's a payoff to it. Because it's like him finding the detonators. It's like, okay, there's a reason why. Like he uses it as a character, but then there's a reason why. Like why was, John McClane was constantly asking like why. Because even like him in the elevator keeping track of how many terrorists there are. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Like a lot of movies before Die Hard, in some ways it was like, Action Star was a script kind of thing. Because it's like, how many henchmen were in Lethal Weapon, or in Commando, or in Cobra?
You also have like the thing with like supporting characters, you also get stuff to do too. Because you have Argyle, who's like, he would think would get nothing to do in the movie, but he also like kind of helps in like his situation. You have Al, who's like has his own like story arc in the background, where he's like, I shot a kid, I haven't been able to pull a gun on anybody since, and he's the one who has to save Bruce Willis at the end. You also have Holly, John McClane's wife, who has her own like kind of cool lines and stuff too, where she like kind of notices that like, oh, John's still alive. Well, how do you know that? Because I've never seen anybody that pissed off before, and I know who does that the most.
Also, you had Theo, who was the smart hacker breaking into the safe, which is like you hadn't seen a black character, which is sad because it's the 80s. But it's like you hadn't seen like a black, like nerdy character, be this safe guy before. Because it's usually I think usually it was a white guy still at that point.
And that guy went on to become Walker Texas Ranger too. Another action show.
Also, Die Hard's better because it had Al Lean The one.
Oh, I never said it wasn't better. It's 100% better. Like rewatching Lethal Weapon was cringy. Oh, like if I don't want to watch a movie again, it's Lethal Weapon. Like the acting is just horrible. Like Mel Gibson really is cringy as fuck.
How dare you speak ill of Lethal Weapon?
Wow, that's not. I'm expecting to get in about Die Hard, but now I'm about to get in about Lethal Weapon because that's like my second favorite like action movie of this like era.
Why do you hate, why do you hate Christmas?
I don't hate Christmas. I just also like, I don't think necessarily it's a Christmas movie. I'm on the fence, to be honest, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It is set during Christmas time, but many movies are set during Christmas time. This is, if you would have to, like if I had to define where my line is between movies set during Christmas time, but being still something else, and a Christmas movie, Die Hard would probably form the line. Whereas like if it's more Christmassy from a feeling here than Die Hard, it's probably, I would put it in a Christmas movie category. Like Gremlins is probably more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard.
What about Iron Man 3?
Which one?
Iron Man 3.
I hated Iron Man 3. I can't remember much of that movie. I watched it a couple of times, but I tried to ignore it.
Wait a minute. James. No. Let's not go down this route. One, let's look at it this way. Christmas used to be a pagan holiday until the Catholics went, oof, we don't like y'all doing your weird word orgy, so let's start celebrating Jesus. Because if you read the Bible, Jesus was born in the spring. He wasn't born in December. And you still have traditions that continue, like the Yule log. And depending on where you are, especially in Europe, you have the Yule cat, Krampus. Like you have a lot of things that are connected to Christmas that isn't technically Christmassy anymore. Two, whenever someone says it's not a Christmas movie, what I hear is it's not on the Hallmark Channel. It's like, it's like I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of year, but you can only have so much sugar. Once in a while, it's like, you know what? It's nice to watch a movie that's a little bit different. And my last point, I'll let you get in here, Brand. It is a Christmas movie because it introduced us to one of the greatest Christmas songs of all time by Run DMC, Christmas in the Hollows. So the fact that it takes place in Christmas, it's a father reconnecting with his family, which sounds like the spirit of effing Christmas, and introduces us to one of the best Christmas songs of all time. I'm sorry, it doesn't have a fat guy coming down a chimney.
Also,
it had a fat guy duct tape quite a while.
He wasn't fat.
I was going to forget my point. But yeah, it's amazing how much well this movie does with its setup and payoffs that you probably aren't paying attention to until you rewatch it later. Like your stuff with Hans Gruber, like you mentioned earlier, Torsten, about they may be terrorists. They flat out say, once they get Takagi alone, we're not terrorists. In fact,
I don't think they are.
They're just thieves. They don't want to admit they're common thieves, but they're thieves.
This is a heist movie. This is not. I mean, action, yes, but so that goes into conspiracy theory territory here. But let me take a step back. So, what's his name? The CEO.
Mr. Nakayama?
No, something with T. Takagi. He's doing some shady business. So first he has the bear bonds in his basement, $640 million worth of bear bonds in the 80s. That's what, $2 billion in current value.
That was even at the time that kind of dates the movie a little bit, because by the time this movie was coming out, bear bonds were a thing that weren't supposed to be a thing anymore. They decommissioned those in 1982.
Yeah, they're not a thing anymore because they were used for shady stuff, like Takagi did, because they're not traceable.
A holdover from this being a novel. So
why don't you put those in a bank? If you have that much money, you would put those in a bank. You wouldn't put those in your basement. And again, bear bonds, the law changed because they were untraceable. It's basically the more the old school Bitcoin or something. You can't trace its origin. You just have the paper, and therefore the bank or someone, they need to give you the value if you redeem it,
They
which
don't
makes the
anymore.
whole. No,
It's funny
because they
that
wanted to
you think
prevent
it's-
the money laundry stuff. So I think Takagi is just doing shady stuff.
Or Torsten just stumbled onto what is one of the key factors of cyberpunk. Not trusting a big business, and especially not trusting a big business from Asia, because that is a key cornerstone. Because, fun fact, okay, back in the day after World War II, especially us like stopping Japan, and Tsuda was a territory. Like, we occupied it for 10 years as it was rebuilding. So a lot of people start to see Japan as like, it's a lesser country. Then all of a sudden, come up to the 80s, it's now a world power, especially in the consumer market with electronics. So cyberpunk actually stemmed from stuff like this, where the fear of the Japanese corporation or Asian corporations taking over in the future.
Plus, you also have like, even if it was like, they never really go into like, oh, if it's like shady or not. It's just a thing he has. You can hand wave it as it is, but it also doesn't really matter considering Takagi gets shot anyways, like 30 minutes into the movie.
No, but so I want to set up my theory here. So assuming he's doing shady business, because when they open the vault, you also see a bunch of Japanese antiques in there. So I don't know what kind of like financial institution has antiques in their basement with the bear bonds and old like samurai stuff. But
we
assuming that
we know some of the banking.
So
how artwork in the basement.
I don't know which bank does.
No, Buckmaster. He does banking, and he got a lot of artwork in his basement.
Oh, Bunk.
All right. Yeah, he's part of the Yakuza.
I was saying, this is what got me, because I'm like, I know James is setting up a dumb joke. I don't know where it's going, and it infuriates me. I don't know where it's going. So Bunk is part of the Yakuza. I will accept this. I think this is now.
There you go. That's been established now. But in the novel, so again, this movie is based on the novel. In the novel, the corporation that they are attacking is also doing shady business in Chile, like an oil corporation that are setting up like the dictatorship there. So it's kind of not far off if you assume that it's like, okay, we're taking this from the book, and lots of other things are very accurate, adapted into the movie. If you have the Japanese corporation that's doing shady business, their CEO, potentially also their employees, because I mean they're doing coke in front of the CEO, they're having sex in the office, like no one, like they're basically doing it on the desk, pulling lines of coke, and no one blinks.
Ellis doing that.
Yeah, but the CEO like stands right next to him, and like I don't know, like even in the 80s, at least the CEO is gonna be like, hey, you can't do this at the office.
This is also like him trying to play it off. Like this. Also, this is the 80s. Cocaine was just everywhere back then.
Well, I was gonna say, because cocaine, I don't even. Granted, I was born in the 80s, but it's like you always get the sense where it's like it was kind of like the equivalent of like drinking on the job nowadays. Like, we know how bad cocaine is with the effect.
Not in 88. I don't know. You weren't doing it in front of your CEO.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Well, yeah, the company's probably into some shady shit. I'm not doubting that. But
so
I think it's more, it's like, by your logic, it's like, because like what, the pregnant woman was part of this? You know, it's like, because the problem is, it's more about like people at the wrong place at the wrong time. Because it's like they're all just at the company party. Sure, like one, sex at the, it's not, look, it's not, you shouldn't do it, but like having sex at the office isn't the equivalent of doing cocaine or.
No, but like also once they get like out of the office, like she didn't even like, I don't know. It's like, I don't need to cover myself up. Just let them fly. But
whoa.
I mean, just the
gun in her face. That was the terror. That was. I'm going to call them terrorists because it's just easier. And I think
all I want to do is establish that the company is shady. Therefore, Hans Gruber's gang, they're the good guys. They are coming in. This is like Ocean. If this was Ocean's 11, you would be celebrating them. They're basically having the same idea as like the Ocean's 11 movies or any other heist movies where you're cheering for the guys committing the theft. They're coming in with a plan. They're distracting the cops. They're bringing in their mobile, like their what was it, an ambulance inside of the truck, to like with the spin in the end to kind of cheat them out of their bear bonds and get away. Along the way, yeah, people die, but if you assume that those are the bad guys because who knows how they got the $640 million in bear bonds for some shady business that also killed a bunch of people. So you have not saying that John McClane is a bad guy. He just has no idea that he's fighting for the wrong side.
Thorson,
now you go.
Thorson.
Considering that the good guys are also indiscriminately killing people left and right, I can't really say they're the good guys in this situation, especially when they're also trying to kill the person stopping them and blowing up helicopters and random people. Like Johnson & Johnson, the FBI agents have more claim to being the good guys because in any other movie
they just no, they don't. They just want to shoot someone. They don't care.
You're right. They're like, if it's another movie, then be like 25%. I like those odds, and then be like, this would be like a one-liner crap from like a Schwarzenegger movie. This wouldn't be like, they would be the heroes of that movie. They wouldn't be like the heroes of this movie.
Just playing devil's advocate here. I know it's a far stretch, but like to me, it was like, one, that's actually a pretty good heist. They're not terrorists. They're not coming in there just for political reasons. They're like, yeah, we want the money. Like this is any other heist movie. Like you just see it from the other perspective. Therefore, you feel attached to the other side. Again, like there are heist movies out there where this all like unfolds the other way around, and you're like cheering for the thieves.
I just can't believe you were like our German commentators. Like, well, clearly the Germans did nothing wrong.
Oh no. So okay, I want to clarify this. So the German version. In the German version, they're not German. In the German adaptation, they are Irish. So you have basically they separated. Is
that why you wear green?
The IRA. Completely random, but no.
I wear more green than I think Thorsten is.
Man,
just had to put on something.
What's Hans Gruber's name in the German version?
Jack Gruber.
He's still Gruber?
He's still Gruber. Gruber, he's already Gruber in the novel. So the name Gruber comes from the novel. So I guess they didn't want to change that. But it's Jack Gruber. He's Irish. Like they're all separating from the IRA. Back then they were far more active. So everyone knew who the IRA were.
I was going to say, that does make sense in some ways because it's like the IRA were constantly in the headlines.
And yeah, they had that whole angle. That's why I was like, when I watched the movie last week, I was like, I had no idea they were Germans. Like, was that can't be right? Like, did they have any theme in the German version? So I went back and looked it up. So in the German version, they're Irish.
Not all of them are German though, because there's some that speak French. There's some like
I think two Italians.
Like Josh was pointing out, he's definitely not German.
I was gonna say Al Long or whatever his name is, the one like the random Asian henchman who was in every '80s film.
He was in Lethal Weapon too. But like, my favorite bit from the movie, or like one of my favorite lines from the movie, is like when Hans Gruber is on the phone negotiating with them about like them wanting to release like certain terrorists from like overseas, and he like names off one of them, like, and Carl like looks at him quizzically like, what? And he goes like, I heard from Time Magazine. And it was like
60. I thought it was 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes. It's like, what is 60 Minutes? It's like, I'll explain it later.
I read off Time Magazine is what I remember.
Maybe something else. But yeah, now all the different organizations, like we need hostages released from this and that and that and this, and I forgot what they all like list, but they're like, who are they? What is this? Yes, like yeah, just agree to it.
And they fell for it
because they follow the FBI playbook to a T.
And he knew about it, so he's the mastermind behind the heist. The other angle, I'm coming with all the crazy conspiracy theories just because I speak German. So there's a fairly big amount of German in this movie. So I don't know in English, there are no subtitles, right? So I watched the movie. None of this was subtitled. So I heard people wondering, like, how do they know this place? So in German, they're actually counting out the steps. Sometimes they're like, okay, left, right, 5 steps this way. So they've seen the blueprints. You can tell they've seen the blueprints because they're in their minds. They're like, they know where to go. Turning left, there's a door. Open the door, turn right, and they're repeating that. The only guy who clearly isn't German, though, and I guess this is Alan Rickman not knowing any German, but it's Hans Gruber. Like, his German is so horrible. He actually, in the movie, and I don't know if this is intentionally done by John McTiernan, but he says in German, "Schieß dem Glas," or "Schieß dem Fenster," which basically is horrible grammar. It's like translates to something like "shoot to them window." Like when he says, and then the German guy actually doesn't understand what he's saying in German. He's like, huh? Oh. And then Hans Gruber repeats it in English, saying, "shoot the window." So to me, in the movie, so this is the other theory, like, is he not even German? Because why would he repeat himself in English? I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of, it's like, he uses the wrong grammar, and then he has to repeat himself, and then they understand him.
It might be the guns. Hit eel.
I was just saying, there are two things with that.
One of those things where, like, look at it, like, shoot the glass. Why are you saying shoot the glass for? And then because Han knows that he's barefoot. So that's
it makes sense why. It totally makes sense why. Just the how. It's like he says it in German, wrong German. He doesn't understand him. He repeats it in English. And now he gets it. Hi, Sam.
Hey, sorry for being so late.
All good.
3 things. First warning, Sam. Torsen picked violence, so just get ready to have your blood boil because he's coming in with the weirdest theories. 2, I always read it as like, yeah, the guns were going off. And it's a film made for Americans. So it's like when you said it in English, it was more for the audience, not for...
It's true.
And Torsen, you've never seen Hunt for Red October, have you?
I have.
With the good, well-known Russian actor, Sean Connery.
Well, at least he's Scottish. But
yeah, I was going to say, his Russian is impeccable in that movie. It's just... Whew.
I don't speak Russian, so I can't pick that apart.
Tommy Lee Jones played an Irishman.
Well, who?
Tommy Lee Jones. I think there's a movie like he did opposite Kurt Russell where he played an Irishman, and it was awful.
So no, I think it's much worse because there's a lot of Brits playing a lot of Russians.
I was saying their German is perfect. So all the henchmen, I didn't know that they weren't actually German. I know they're like they're Russian and everything, but their German is perfect. It's Alan Rickman who can't speak German.
Apparently, in Germany, the villains are Irish, not German. Because shocker.
Yeah, why would you do that? You wouldn't have a U.S. Hollywood movie where the U.S. are the bad. Maybe nowadays.
We have.
Not in the 80s though.
There's a lot of movies in the 80s where like the government's the bad guys and the U.S. government's the bad guys.
Yeah, Alf.
The Blob.
Always goes back to Alf.
But usually you have then the good guys also being Americans. You wouldn't have a movie where, I don't know, the Japanese are the good guys and the Americans are the bad guys made in Hollywood.
When you have movies like Red Dawn, you can't really have a case there either, I guess.
What about Godzilla?
Okay, when you say Godzilla, which one are you talking about?
Godzilla is the good guy?
With the bombs. Didn't we do the bombs that gave birth to him?
Yeah, but the Americans weren't in that.
Yeah, but we the reason he was born?
Well, yeah, but it's also that was made by Japan, not by Hollywood.
Yeah, there has to be an American movie where America is the bad guy.
The Blob.
Team America. That's not the 80s.
Oh, South Park.
Yeah, but that's not the 80s.
Oh, we're talking about 80s specifically?
Yeah, just about that time period, because Josh is picking apart that the German adaptation doesn't have Hans Gruber as a German bad guy, but they renamed him to Jack Gruber, and he's part or like ex-IRA Irish, and kind of they've separated from it and now doing the heist.
See, I was just kind of picking up.
What's funny about to me is like that scene where Hans Gruber is played by a British actor playing a German character trying to do an American accent.
It's like, yeah, guys ever seen House, and Hugh Laurie is British playing an American guy, and he's doing he's a British guy playing an American guy doing a fake British accent in like a scene in the show. Yeah. And he does like the very stereotypical like British "hello governor" type of thing.
Oh God, you're one of them.
So I kind of did like that they apparently there's a scene that they cut out when Bruce Willis talks to John McClane talks to Hans Gruber when he's pretending to be one of the hostages, and the moment he realizes, or how he realizes, that he is actually one of the attackers and not a hostage, is because he sees his watch, and they're all having the same watches with like the kind of synchronized and stuff. And that scene where you see when he's reaching for the cigarette, you see the watch. That scene they cut out. I don't know why, but that's basically supposed to be the moment when John McClane realizes that Hans Gruber is one of the attackers.
It definitely wasn't clear, but like I always just inferred, and this is my first time seeing it, that he knew that, you know, he recognized the voice and he was just kind of playing along just to see, you know what he was going to do, just kind of toying with him. So like I figured he just knew, especially like the voice is recognizable. You know, especially like the fake American accent, it did not sound like very American.
Especially when you give him like an unloaded gun and go, "Oops."
Yeah.
Also, it did sound a little bit like Alice, though. Like the LA guy.
Yeah, I hear it.
Also, I feel like we're really forgetting the true villain of Die Hard.
Paul Gleason?
The FBI.
Santa Claus?
Thornburg, the reporter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about that after.
This man has no dick.
Holy. Yeah. He deserved that punch and maybe more.
See, that's what I love about this movie, Die Hard, is that like there's so many actors that you can like. I recognize this actor from Breakfast Club. I recognize the actor from Ghostbusters. I recognize this actor from Lethal Weapon. I recognize the actor from The Goonies. Like it's like a cavalcade of 80s movies in one.
Yeah. Speaking of like the many actors, I actually like how all these different little plot points and how they converge. You have the reporter, you've got Al, or I'll just say Carl from Family Matters, because basically the same character. You've got John, Paul Gleason, if you want to count that, but just all these like different little points converging and like all playing their own little parts in this whole fiasco, and resolving or worsening. You've got Argyle, saving the day, crashing the ambulance and preventing that other guy from escaping. Oh yeah, and then the reporter, nearly fucks over the entire family. Like the side plot, gets some relevance in the end.
But it's also nice because it's like, because of the reporter, that's how Hans found out the wife was actually married to.
That's what I was saying. Like he nearly fucks over, McClane's family.
Because it's like, man, it's a very well written script, because it definitely feels like dominoes, where it's like there's always a cause and effect. Also, the one thing is like, this is one of my favorite action movies because, and this is going to sound weird, because he gets injured, especially with the glass, not like him not having shoes is such a small minor thing that you wouldn't think about, but it definitely impacts the movie in so many ways. Because one of my favorite Spider-Man comics, he breaks his arm and he has to fight the Shocker with a broken arm, and it's like, I haven't done that since the 60s, but it's a little thing where it's like, yeah, if you have a one arm tied behind your back, basically, you're not
It
going to
just
fight it.
shows you he's making dumb decisions. All like, why does he take the shoes off in the first place? Like, there should be a priority to find some shoes there. And then,
Not his size.
He killed
yeah,
the
well, you can probably cut them open and like. I mean, again, not knowing what he was getting into. This is also like he's not familiar with the situation, therefore he doesn't anticipate the next steps. So he's reacting a lot instead of planning too much, which makes him more relatable because, yeah, I don't know how many of you have been in a situation to be like, oh, of course I would have done this next. Like if you're in a situation that's telling like or showing more his character of like being thrown in a situation you're not familiar with, other than all the other action stars that are like, this is our daily business here.
I also like to think like Torsten was a behind Die Hard 1,000% until he found out Hans Gruber was named Hans, and now he's like, man, why didn't he cut open the shoes? I'm going to nitpick everything John McClane does.
See, like
Well, he might not.
3, I have so much to talk about with that one.
He might not be able to wear a dead man's shoes.
Well, it's also, he says in the movie, it's like, I found the one terrorist with feet smaller than my sister.
Sam, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the movie's not necessarily meta. That would be an overstatement, but it definitely, there's a lot of lines talking about this is not a John Wayne movie. You've watched way too many movies, and what Josh was saying, reminded me of what I was thinking about during the movie. With him, his like his feet bleeding, because of the glass, and just the fact that like cut glass will cause you harm, which if you watch any of those kind of movies that I'm poking fun of, that doesn't do crap. And a few years before that movie was Commando, where Arnold Schwarzenegger could just point his gun anywhere, and hit someone. So it definitely was, it was trying to be a different kind of movie, a relatively more grounded kind of action film, as compared to the very bombastic stuff that, Hollywood is known for.
I was going to say, have you all seen Commando?
Yeah.
Probably years
I've seen
ago.
bits of it.
So, like at the end of the movie, I think it's a Corvette. I forget what kind of car. It's a nicer car. It's not made for this, but literally rolls down a hill, just like tumbles back and forth. Like you're like, oh, that thing is destroyed. And then all of a sudden lands on his wheels perfectly fine, and it drives off like no problem. Where you're like, get some plot armor for the car to survive.
See, that whole movie had plot armor when you have Arnold Schwarzenegger standing in a open area, shooting his gun from the hip and getting headshots in, and not getting hit once.
It also has some of the best one-liners known to man. Like, remember when I said I would kill you last?
I lied. Or blow up some steam, Bennett, which is a reason why Power Rangers Time Force, one of my favorite Power Ranger seasons, because Bennett is the main villain in that season.
And they call back to Road Warrior, Mad Max. They shows up.
Oh yeah, in the two-part, he basically dresses up like his character.
Oh, by the way, Sam. So we all got in this debate. Do you think this movie is a Christmas movie?
It's funny. So I've heard about this debate for decades. This is my first time going into it. I can't say if it's a Christmas movie or not. I would just say that the overall quality of Christmas movies would drastically decline if you did not count Die Hard.
So 4 out of 5.
I did not say it wasn't a.
Look, if you're playing devil's advocate, you got to take it.
I can take no. I said it defines the line. It defines the line between yes and no for me.
Right, Christmas is not the focus. It's like it just takes place around Christmas. It's a stretch, but like I would just say is, if it's not a Christmas movie, the average quality of Christmas movies like dives significantly down.
Yeah, the Hawkeye MCU TV, Disney Plus show is more Christmassy than this, but Lethal Weapon is less Christmassy.
Batman Returns, more Christmassy.
So it was, but like during the beginning of the movie, it really tries hard to tell you, okay, this takes place around Christmas with the music. And one of the most evil things that a character said in the movie He's in the limo with Argyle. Argyle's playing the sort of this like, jazz fusion hip hop track. And he's like, he's like, oh, I want to play some Christmas music.
This is Christmas music.
What kind of music, Sam?
I only heard it once while I was watching the movie for the very first effing time, and it just sounded like jazz, mixed with hip hop.
You're coming in here and you're telling me you do not know whose house this is?
I don't even know what you're referring to.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't do music that much.
Dear God, our cast is
guys are not into rap.
This is Run's house. This is Run DMC. Christmas in the Hollows. Oh my.
But regardless, the most evil line in the movie is Bruce Willis demanding, that classic Christmas music being played. Going into Walmart, that is the worst part of this time of the year, is, hearing all the crap that, it's just recycling 24/7.
I can tell you that working. I've had to hear Last Christmas 10 times. I failed Wham again already.
Mm.
I mean, it does. The movie does do a better job than traditional, like prior action movies in being more realistic. It doesn't do a 100% perfect job because that C4 will never explode if you just throw it into the elevator shaft like that.
There was a lot of things that had to go with that C4, but I feel like the stuff I can't really say out loud without making you put on the list.
But compared to a lot of the action movies of the 80s, it's definitely more grounded.
Not everything explodes by itself other than the C4.
There is one that is even more grounded, and that is the Terminator. I did not mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was just thinking nope, I'm going to get into this whole thing about the C4. I'm like, not important. I'll let Thorson have this one thing.
How does he throw the guy out of the window and onto the car that's like 50 feet away from the building?
Welcome to the party, pal. I don't know, gravity?
Yeah. Gravity. So one thing I'm trying to figure out. So,
like I said,
to explain the whole like bombing, the whole building, killing everyone. Hans Gruber says, if they think I'm dead, then they're not going to come looking for me. It's like, okay, so. I mean, it's besides it being sort of like a throwaway line. So was it like that he was kicked out of his terrorist group because he was too greedy and he was sort of cosplaying terrorist, just so they could believe that, this was like some ideological thing. So it would make his like a suicide more believable?
It was just to fake his death and, make it seem like he's faking his death. When really he's just using it as like a political thing. They're not terrorists. I told Thorson, they're not terrorists. They're just thieves with like.
I understand that, but like they said, in one of the newsreels at the beginning that he was exiled from some terrorist group.
Yeah, they're exiled from, and again, so they say the West German, and then everyone online in the Wikipedia, fandoms pages says East German. It's like, no, they clearly say West German. And this is it's a big play on the RAF, Red Army Fraction, that was a terrorist group in Germany. They killed bank CEOs and stuff, and they kidnapped and hijacked an airplane and stuff. So they are supposed to be former RAF members, exiled for whatever. I don't know what they would be exiled for. I don't think they could go too rogue, maybe not following their ideology anymore and just being after the money, which they are in the movie. They're just after the money. They don't care about political reasons. Yeah,
because they didn't really explain that. It's like he used it, if he was never a terrorist, then you can say he was just pretending to be a terrorist, because he wanted to rob. But then, the fact they added that he used to be a terrorist but was kicked out, just makes it just gets a little more confusing.
No, I can see why they were kicked out because
Switzerland with Finland, so they may not be entirely accurate.
But so the Red Army Fraction, they were a ideology, they're kind of the communists, Red Army, like it's in the words, like more communist side. So if you abandon that ideology and are after money, then you're basically betraying the idea of like being against corporations, being against capitalism, and which is what they're just after the money. And for that, they would already be kicked out because
so that's why I figured, like he was greedy. He wanted money, so he wasn't, pure enough ideologically.
Wasn't a good communist.
I might as well pretend to be a terrorist. Use that terrorist cred to like dupe people to thinking that this is an ideological thing. So when I pretend to kill myself, people actually believe it, and they will come looking for me because like why would they think this is a robbery?
For the FBI to trigger their playbook. So he knew exactly what he said in the beginning. We need the FBI. They are now here earlier than expected, but they were part of the plan all along. So they knew they needed them for the whole hostages to the roof distraction.
Or let's look at it this way. I actually was part of the royal family, but I got kicked out for my political reasons. AKA, he could have just lied about it, and like that was something he fed to the media. Before it was going down.
It is a thing through this movie where he misquotes that Alexander quote, thinking it's like something else, like "no more worlds to conquer," even though that's not exactly the quote itself. He's like Hans Gruber is putting himself like up as like this like proper gentleman, like thief kind of a thing, instead of just like what Holly calls him, just the common thief. That line from Holly makes him go berserk. He's like, "I'm an exceptional thief." Like he wants to be seen as more important than he is.
Like, I mean, he definitely was prideful, but I wouldn't say he was berserk. He's like certainly proud of it, but I don't think so much so he was that offended.
Well, jumped up out of his seat and getting her face about it. So
okay.
That was the most reaction we got out of him, even when he killed the man.
Right. Okay, that's fair. I take it back. As I said, I only watched this movie once, and that was like 20, 30 minutes ago. So,
see, I always read it as like, I mean, part of it too, it's like, I don't really need the backstory because it's like, for me, it was like, the whole play was if we pretend to be terrorists, they'll treat us like terrorists and we can get away with a robbery. Because if we act like thieves, they're going to do it.
Right. Yeah. As I said, like in that. And like I buy into all that. As I said, the only thing that confused me, as I said, was that one line where, that this terrorist group disavowed him.
I always read that as like he made that up or fed that information because it's like, I don't know. It's like, especially with the terrorist group, they might like maybe he was a part of it and that was part of the plan. Because this was clearly something they've been planning for years. Like this wasn't just.
And that's why I was like, And it's totally plausible, that, I guess, as I said, like that he was kicked out for just being a greedy criminal. Maybe they
found out he wasn't German. They found out he was a fake German.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that whole thing I was like talking about earlier about like him saying he saw it off Time Magazine or 60 Minutes. It like that kind of confused like one of the people I was working with. Like, huh? Like, oh, I saw it off this. So it's like he's pulling information from stuff that he knows that's going to get like a reaction out of like people he's talking to and be like, oh, we're dealing with these kind of people.
Okay, so just to rewind though, Josh, you were saying the reporter is the most evil character. I can see that point, but one of the most pathetic characters was like the two FBI agents in the helicopter, pretending they're in Saigon as they were, about to inadvertently cause the death of 30-something civilians.
That was in middle school.
One was in middle school, the other one was in Saigon, and he had clearly PTSD. I don't know if any movie had PTSD as like a side topic at this point. Like again, I had to look up some dates there. Like the end of the Vietnam War was only 13 years away. This is like if in nowadays, like this is the end, like 2010, right? Like this is super close to the end of Vietnam. So this guy isn't old, but he's a Vietnam vet with PTSD, and I don't think movies at this time were covering that topic too much. I don't know. Deer Hunter. Deer Hunter came out probably around that time too. But
Platoon, that came out a couple years before, and then Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I take that back.
PTSD became a common term until like the 2000s.
Oh no, you just knew people that went there became nuts after, and that's why the FBI agent was like written like that. So I don't think it's too. I mean, a little bit over the top, but maybe not, because
they were clearly a stereotype, especially both being Johnson, because that's like a crack at FBI's. Like, yeah, they were almost cartoonish figures, especially because
they're the people like, oh, these people get blown up, I don't care.
Well,
because they would be so callous.
They were written as if from the point of view of a cop, because they took over the assignment. They don't care. Like, that's how they were written.
Yeah. And then the cops were also written out of other than L. All the other cops were written as like whoever comes in is just like the making things worse. It's like written out of L's perspective, because apparently it's not bad. Like, again, this is one of the things that didn't age well. There's stuff in the beginning of the movie with the like gun on the airplane, smoking at the airport, offering the champagne to the pregnant lady. But one of those things is like, oh yeah, I shot this 13-year-old kid, but yeah, I'm on administrative leave, but I'm still here doing my duty.
We know who that kid is.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Realistic, that happens every day.
Also, this is a pre-2001 America, so it's like, yeah, a lot of things are going to be different around the 80s.
Also, but like it's more from his perspective, because even his officer coming in, he's being a dick and an idiot, and then the FBI agents coming in, and they're even one step worse, like one level worse.
Because John McClane's also a cop. It's anyone in authority or above who's acting like a dick. Because that was a comment.
He's not acting like a cop though. Like, he's like, you can't do anything to me. You're a cop. It's like, well, tell that to my boss or to my sergeant or whatever he's saying. Like, he's not by the book.
No, but it's also okay. Especially if this was based off of the 70s New York. You got to keep in mind, New York, especially in the 70s, was a lot different than it is nowadays. Like. Yeah, it's like that is more in line to how cops acted especially in the 70s.
Yeah, I think the movie, because a lot of movies are, like very, I guess I'm trying to think of the word. They do a lot of commentary on, American culture, American politics, American, class issues. This movie was definitely a condemnation of sorts, as someone was saying, on authority, but something just like bigger than that, just sort of like just the faux hierarchy of the 80s, and in that desperate clawing to the top, and and being at the top, in that just inflated sense of ego that it gives, as with Paul Gleason, who is just a natural playing a dick. Then you have like the reporter who isn't at the top, but is so desperate to rise in the hierarchy that he nearly gets John's wife killed. Then you've got the FBI guys who we just talked about and nearly got a bunch of people killed because they're just playing it by the book and they're the ones in charge.
See, Josh, forgive me for bringing this up. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But that reporter shows up again in Die Hard 2. So.
And here, a bigger low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't see how that movie would get a sequel. I mean, it's a really good movie, but it just feels like such a complete story. It doesn't feel like, okay, this is like the start of a franchise.
Money. It made money.
I know.
It's a success.
There's some movies that lend themselves to sequels. This is not one of them.
I have 4 sequels.
Most Die Hard sequels after this didn't really get like as much critical reception as this one did, because like people still go, Die Hard 2 is just Die Hard 3 is probably like the most closest to it as far as I've seen, but then you had Die Hard 4 and 5 where people like, ugh.
It's just becoming unrealistic, and Die Hard 4 is standing on a flying jet. I'm sorry, like this Western Mission Impossible.
Like, Live Free or Die Hard. If there's a title, please show that film respect.
No.
I've never seen any of the RoboCop sequels, but I can see room for sequels. You know, you have the world that they inhabit. There's like a lot of different things to explore within that world, different stories to be told. But in this, you have this like one huge heist. The main central villain is dead. You know, the couple's like relationship is repaired. It's like, where do you go from there? You know,
and it's not even that John McClane is a special agent that is coming in to be help. He's like accidentally there. How many times in your life can you happen to accidentally be at the scene?
Exactly.
I heard that The Vengeance did have Hans Gruber's brother, played by Jeremy Irons, as a villain, so they explain it that way.
It's also
very creative.
Now here's the thing. Yeah, the second one, it's he gets on the wrong plane, terrorist, blah blah blah. Vengeance. I'm not a big fan of 2. I know Brand is, so, but I will say Die Hard with a Vengeance. I actually, in some ways, Sam, I think you might enjoy that one.
Okay.
Because it's also, it's Hans Gruber's brother, and he demands that's John McClane. But they also go into a lot of like racial aspects, especially with him wearing the billboard sign. Live Free or Die Hard. That's just Hollywood popcorn, turn off your brain. But Timothy Olden, no. The guy from Justified, the sheriff from Mandalorian.
Oliphant?
Yeah. He does a phenomenal job in that. And it's also, that one's just like, yeah, it's getting to like ridiculous levels because they're literally throwing cars at planes. And then you have A Good Day to Die Hard, which is a great name, but like the worst movie out of the bunch.
Yeah, at least it's not a sequel to a speeding bus, and the sequel is then a slow moving cruise ship.
Speed. Well, now here's a real question, because I know Brand has, and I'm Dollars Donuts James has, but as the other two, have you seen Under Siege?
No.
I have to look up what the German title is for that.
I don't know if I've seen that or not.
What? Brand, you've seen that, right?
Seagal, yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. Like, that's his top.
Jump out of the cake.
Under Sea?
Yeah, with Tommy Lee Jones, Under Siege. Die Hard.
Oh, Alarm. Okay, Alarmstufe Rot in German for.
Yeah, very
commonly known. Wait a minute, what does that translate to in German?
Alarmstufe Rot, like alert level red. Like
not bad, but Under Siege. It's hard to beat.
There's so many titles. Like Die Hard, so the German title is Stirb langsam, which translates back to English as Die Slowly.
Interesting. I mean,
because you couldn't, the literal translation of Die Hard doesn't make sense in German.
It doesn't have the same energy, but it sounds badass in its own way.
You can't translate it as Stirb hart. That wouldn't.
Yeah, I was about to say, I do hate though with Hollywood where they're like, Die Hard was popular. What lesson should we learn? And it's like terrorists take. It literally was. It then became terrorists takes over a building, not like hey.
Take over something. Like again, Speed is basically a remake of Die Hard, just in a bus, or you have it on the mountain. Cliffhanger. Like again, at least this movie gave us Cliffhanger, which isn't a bad movie.
Under
Have
Siege.
you seen Under Siege 2?
Under Siege, they took over a Navy warship. Like
then you had Sudden Impact, which was Jean-Claude Van Damme, Die Hard on the hockey rink.
Mm-hmm. Because honestly, I wish we got more films where it's like, hey, here's the hero bleeding, or here's the hero like having to deal with a small problem that's like missing shoes. Like missing shoes is hard to beat, but it's like something like that where it's like, this affects the hero in a way where it's like, no, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, for me, what I enjoyed so much is how, I guess, the stakes, how big it felt and how, like, sort of, like, these guys are trying to rob, but you don't completely get their angle, and and you have the detonator, but there's just like, I guess, a sense of gravitas to what's going on with how big this building is, and John McClane being able to sort of, like treat this whole, building as a battlefield. It just, as I said, just sort of grandiosity of it all.
And Hans Gruber most of the time was in control. He knew exactly what was going to happen, except for when he lost the detonators. He could deal with like that. Like he's like, I know not everyone's going to make it out alive here. I know the FBI is going to show up. We need them to show up. Right. But when he lost the detonators, like that's the one thing he can not have. Like that's when he was like, oh, it's not going according to my plan.
Also, man, like even this is actually, so it's interesting. Somehow with friends, like we listed off like the 10 films we like watched the most or owned, like something. Somehow I whittled it down to this was like my favorite movie I owned. But it's like even if this movie wasn't like a great action movie, like gave us Bruce Willis, but also it gave us Alan Rickman, that is a treat in itself.
Dogman and Harry Potter.
Alan Rickman will later play a cowboy, so he can relate to John McClane.
I was going to say, Quincy Down Under is a very underrated film.
Well, and again, movie club theme here. Dogma, clearly, like I even liked him in Dogma even better than in Die Hard.
Just read the book. I guess you haven't heard of it.
Trying to think of anything that isn't Harry Potter or Die Hard I've ever seen Alan Rickman in.
Galaxy Quest.
He's in Metatron in Dogma.
I don't see those. I don't think I've seen those.
Also, I like how this movie features the Germans. In the last movie, we had a key actor who was fluent in German.
Yeah. If this doesn't sound weird, I enjoy this movie more as a thriller than an action movie. Not to dismiss the action, but it was the sneaking around. It was, even though you knew like everyone was going to come on top at the end, the sense of dread of being caught, of what these villains are up to, of what is going to happen to these hostages, and the relationship these characters are building, and that becoming those getting at stake as well.
There's two things I want to like point out before I forget that I like that are actually kind of ad libs.
Mm-hmm.
One is Yippee-Ki-Yay. That was apparently an ad lib by Willis. He didn't think it was actually going to be in the movie, but they threw it in there because they liked how it sounded, especially the whole cowboy conversation between him and Hans Gruber. And the second ad lib I liked is when Hans Gruber is falling off the building, and you get that close-up shot of his like face. Apparently, they didn't they're going to drop him because they're like, okay, we're going to drop you, and they're like, we're going to count you down. We're going to count you down at 3. He goes, okay. They go 1, 2. Then they drop him. He goes like, so.
Oh yeah, some of the best slow-mo I've ever seen.
Because he honestly thought, like, from his perspective, it broke and he's about to die.
Wait, did they intentionally do that way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is awful to do.
Also, movies you might have seen Alan Rickman in, Galaxy Quest.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen Galaxy Quest?
That should be.
Not sure if I even heard of it.
Oh man, that's the best Star Trek film ever made.
See,
I'm not into Star Trek, so that's why.
Well, it's also like about like sci-fi fans in general too, because that would be like.
You could do Power Ranger in a way too.
It's a spoof off of Star Trek. It's weird, Sam. It's a spoof off of Star Trek, but they do it so well. Even Star Trek like fans go, no, this is the best. Like we can never get something better than this.
Wrath of Khan. Thank you.
But yeah.
That's why I was like, I'm not into Star Trek, but I've seen that movie. So.
But not to derail the conversation, but it does really raise a lot of questions when it comes to ethics in, filmmaking, and the certain ways that filmmakers treat their actors, and the certain things they do to be able to tell the story they want. Stanley Kubrick, by far is the worst offender, at least when it comes to mainstream American filmmakers. But yeah, making someone think they're about to die just so you get like, a really good look at their face, I would just say is extraordinarily messed up.
Well, Bruce Willis lost 2/3 of his hearing, right? Because they made those blanks like extra loud, and when he shoots through the table, he has the gun basically on his chest shooting up, and that was so loud, like he permanently lost his hearing on one of his ears. So like 2/3 of it.
I was about to say, listen to any interview with Jackie Chan, because it's like he almost died multiple times doing certain
Well, but it's by choice. That's not the directors. That's him wanting to do.
It was also, yeah, because then you also get the extreme with the Crow and Brandon Lee, because they couldn't afford blanks, so they tried to make their own and ended up getting shot.
I think that's kind of when it turned around a little bit, was with the Crow, because then after that it started being a little bit more safer on set with like these kind of stuff. Like, the stuntman, like also like you notice like for Die Hard, first the stuntman like the ventilation shaft, when he jumps off and tries to get into it, he actually misses and lands right below it. Thankfully, the stuntman was okay, but that was like one of the things like, oh, that could have ended poorly if that went any worse.
But the fun thing about that is actually, so he misses the level, right? So he lands one level below. And they had to rewrite the script from there on out because they were so happy with the shot. They're like, we're gonna take this shot. I mean, the stuntman almost died, but they kept the shot. Then therefore they had to now go one level lower. And in the movie, they had to set the rest of the movie in the lower level, and they had to rewrite the rest. So now Bruce Willis was on the lower level and had to go from there.
Yeah, it reminds me of the shot in a movie where someone actually died and they kept it. I think it was a Mission Impossible movie where there was like a stuntman on a parachute, and and I think the parachute was supposed to either go above or below a bridge, but unfortunately the stuntman collided with the bridge, and and so that shot, in where he got killed, kept in the movie, obviously cutting right before he collided. And apparently, like, there's like a director's commentary where it's like, we kept it in, in honor, this guy's work, and dedication to making this, these kind of movies, something like that.
And there's also the Twilight Zone movie where one of the segments had to get rewritten entirely, like the ending anyway, because of the helicopter crash that happened in it. In fact, that's also the thing that made Spielberg like disavow like the director for that movie for like even now, I think.
I was gonna say, have you guys ever seen Milo and Otis?
Dogs and Cats.
Yeah, the dog and cat, the little pug in the orange cat movie.
Oh.
You know why films at the end of movies say no animals were harmed in the making of this production?
I don't like this
because of that movie.
I really hope you're not going to say the movie I think you're going to say.
No, it's Milo and Otis.
Never mind.
It got to the point where like people were calling pet stores where it's like, if they're asking for a pug and a yellow cat or an orange cat, do not sell it, because they literally were like them going over the tops of the roofs. I think they had to do that shot like 20 times or something, and the animals died each shot.
I was just looking up because I didn't know about the stuntman dying in the Tom Cruise movie, and apparently there are 2 stunt pilots that died in the making of this movie. So yeah, it's even worse.
Okay, it was. I don't actually. It might have not been the Tom Cruise movie. I think it might have been the Triple X movie with Vin Diesel.
Okay, just the Mission Impossible stuntman dies, and like there's one article that talks about 2 stunt pilots dying.
I was just say, for some reason, Triple X makes, because it's to Sam's point, it's like death on a film is always tragic, but it's the fact that they use the film, like they use that scene.
Yeah, and just the greater exploitation, going back to Die Hard, tricking, Alan Rickman to thinking he's died to get, this like, really good, reaction. It's really exploitative and unethical is like,
They were going to have him land safely. They just didn't tell him they were going to like drop him early.
Yeah, but if you drop someone early, you react differently. Like, I don't think he thought he was going to die, but he knew he was going to fall. But in that situation, you probably react differently. You might not remember that maybe you have to you usually have to cross your arms before you land, like the second before you land into a big like blow up, like what is it, whatever that's called, the big pillow they throw you into, like stuff like that. Like if you drop someone early, there's other stuff that can go wrong. Obviously, like apparently nothing went wrong, but yeah, now I get Sam's point that even though they had safety precautions, they still dropped him from a fairly high. Like I heard different account. I don't know what's right. Like I heard someone saying 45 feet. I heard someone saying 75 feet. But regardless, that's pretty high.
Yeah,
Being
and
dropped
not,
on your back.
and not exactly dangerous other than mental health wise. Stanley Kubrick, and I forget the actress's name in The Shining.
Shelley Duvall.
Yes, and just how like
Yeah.
stressed he made her, and and to the point where her hair is falling off just so she can, have this convincing, performance as someone who's terrified.
That's Kubrick.
Well, it's not only that, it's like apparently, or accuse it, like, I don't know. It's Tom Cruise, so you never know what you can believe. But like apparently Eyes Wide Shut ruined or caused the divorce between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman because how Stanley Kubrick made them retake like intimate scenes 100 times in front of the camera, like intimate bedroom scenes where they had to reenact 100, 120, 200 times. And then they're like, yeah, the marriage was done after this movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's also because I remember Stallone talking about, like with Cliffhanger, I don't know, like he busted his shoulder with Cliffhanger. Like because he talks about how it's like, yeah, he's a big movie star, everyone recognizes his name, but like his body is in so much pain from doing these movies. Whereas like, because he talked about with like the Marvel movies nowadays, it's like, any action movie, it's like it's people on a green screen on a soundstage covered in foam. Like they're never in danger. Whereas like with them, they had to shoot on location.
Yeah, and then you have Jackie Chan who's just relishing it.
Jackie
And,
Chan,
Jackie Chan is also like insane. So
yeah.
because
So you got some like spectacular action films from him.
I love his blooper reels where he's just like they show all the stunts that go wrong.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, have you all seen a Police Story with Jackie Chan?
That is a wonderful movie. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the mall scene where he's sliding down?
So here's the really fun fact of that scene. He was doing that on his off time. I forget what movie he was working on during that filming. So he did that at like, he would get like 2 hours of sleep between filming these two movies.
So wait, are you saying Police Story was a side project of his, or?
Police Story was a complete side project.
Holy shit! What was he working on?
I forget the other movie. I think it was one of those. I think it was one of those like Chinese historical films. The Police Story is what propelled him into a full-on like actor, leading man. But yeah, it's like he had like second-degree burns. Like I think he struck.
Remember when like the car was driving through the shanty towards the beginning? That movie just had a lot of spectacular stunts.
Rumble in the Bronx is like famous for me because like there's one where like they had to like what was it? They had to give him like a cast look like it one like Nikes or like one of his shoes because he broke his foot.
Yeah,
like doing like one of the water skiing things.
Because they show it where it's like it's this fake. Yeah, like you can tell what it is when they put it on, but you're like, oh man. No, because I remember with Jackie Chan, he talked about because his philosophy was he's like, look, are you going to go up to someone in the theater like wanting to put out your movie? Are you going to go like, hey, we wanted to do the shot, but it was raining, we had to cut this, but enjoy this. Next person, hey, we really wanted to, he's like, you only have one chance to do a movie. Also, because that's also why I love the John Wick movies, because I miss that Hong Kong production. Now, granted, they treated their actors like shit and put them in very dangerous predicaments, but we got amazing shots from it.
Atomic Blonde has that same kind of aspect too with it.
Because a lot of those are the old stunt guys now in a position to direct and make movies. So it's like, okay.
Not dangerous and not sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to say that all came from the whole shaky cam. That was the answer to the shaky cam shit.
So not with regards to stuntmen, but like doing multiple things at once, and to bring this back to Die Hard. So Bruce Willis, during the day at this time, he shot Moonlighting during the day. At night, he shot Die Hard at the same time. And at the same time of shooting in a movie, he also married Demi Moore. So that man was busy in 87, 88.
It got to work out.
Yeah, I can see after watching this film why this, Bruce Willis is so famous for Die Hard.
It's basically been a signature movie for like decades.
Yeah, I can see why.
I was going to say, because in some ways it really propelled his career, because like he was in the Gorillaz music video Stylo, and it's like he's not even playing a character, because to be the lead actor, Miles, holy shit, it's Bruce Willis. Like, for like ever since this movie, kind of, he did some other different projects like The Kid and Till Death Do They Part, but it's like he was known as the action guy.
This is in between, right? Action guy, but still a character. Like, again, other than Schwarzenegger or Stallone, that are just, or Van Damme, like just action. He would maybe what later became like a Liam Neeson role, like character but action, but he can still throw in some jokes. And he had other roles as well. Like, it wasn't all just action, even though he got a pretty bad once, not because of him. His acting was still good, but the director just like dropped the ball on some of the following movies.
Well, kind of hate to interrupt, sorry. It kind of shows how far the series has gone, because like bring up the everyman aspect in like the first one. By Live Free or Die Hard, that kind of aspect is just kind of gone. It just becomes like it's every other action movie you've seen in the theaters around that time of like 2007, 2008 when it came out.
Maybe that's why also by today's standards, it doesn't work the same way. To me, this is a really good movie. I don't understand the paradigm shift. I don't understand the greatest of all time necessarily. So I'm a little bit on the fence on that. But I can see for its time, because so many movies after that copied it, like that it became the new normal. Like if you made something worse than what the new benchmark was at this point, then it would have failed. So you had to push the bar higher and higher. And by now we're like at the higher bar where you don't only get action and comedy. Now you have to actually have a great story as well, because to be honest, the plot like sometimes fell short. It kind of moved the needle, but now the needle has been moved so much that like by today's standards, like if this movie came out today, I don't know.
I think it was a particular. If you don't, I was just going to say, I think I wouldn't say it's the greatest of all time, but I think but whether it's by 80 standards or today's standards, I think it was a well done thriller. I think it did a very good job setting the stakes. It did a good job in terms of pacing and kind of building suspense and just kind of, building off from, the previous scene and just creating the kind of environment the movie was creating and interweaving the different plot points. I think, even with all the hype and, its association of being revolutionary of its time, it's still a movie that holds up.
See, in my perspective, we've been talking about this movie for almost 2 hours. And for something that is usually seen as like, oh, just a great action movie with some great performances. But yeah, we're picking apart little details and stuff like we picked up from like either first time watching it or countless times watching it. I think that shows like how good like the writing of this movie is and how well it stands the test of time, that we're able to like pick up details of this even decades afterwards.
So here's a fun fact. I haven't watched this movie in a year. I just know this movie so well. I can jump in here and talk about Die Hard anytime.
And then you have Josh.
Yep.
No, I was about to say, I do feel like, and I'm not trying to like lessen your guys' experience. Some of it is like, because I remember seeing this in the 90s, so it still was kind of fresh. It's like That is the problem because there needs to be a name for this. Like John Carter of Mars has this problem where it's like when something's based off like something so inspirational, it inspires so many other movies. So by the time someone sees it, they're like, well, this seems kind of basic, or this doesn't seem as good.
Right. It's almost like a multiplicity effect, but for movies.
Yeah. Because all of a sudden it's like no, you gotta understand, like, this was huge, this was huge. Because hey, because it's me, it's weird reading Jack Kirby's The Fourth World, because like I said, there have been times where I'm like, this is where the idea of Captain Planet came from. This is where the idea of this comes from. So I'm always the kind of guy, I like to go back in the past to see where like that original germ came from.
Yeah.
And also, you all haven't seen Under Siege, so you haven't even seen the best clone of Die Hard.
Yeah, I think, as I said,
Best with Die Hard. It's one of them.
Cliffhanger, maybe.
I haven't seen Cliffhanger.
I think, and I can't speak to Jack Kirby comics, I'm just going to speak on movies. Movies as influential as Die Hard and to have so many replicated moments and so many of tropes that build off of it, like the movie that has all those things built off of it is because it's done so well in the original. And with a multiplicity effect, it's like when you duplicate something so many times, it loses its quality. So if you trace it all the way back to its root, you're going to have, like, you're probably the better version because it's the version that, set the template.
See, I don't know.
And that's not perfectly true. So
I'm not saying it's not multiplicity, because what I'm saying is you get something that like with Star Wars, people love Star Wars so much, but then when you go back to see like what it's like John Carter.
Oh, okay.
No, but I actually wanted to bring that example because I get what you're saying. So Die Hard has been copied so much that the original Die Hard has lessened the effect. I wanted to bring up Star Wars and other, like, if you want to go Jurassic Park or like other original movies that have introduced the theme or made or moved the needle. So if they haven't introduced it, they moved the bar so high that it made an impact, right? It made a difference. If you go back and rewatch them, I would still name Jurassic Park, Star Wars as movies that hold up today. Like even if it hasn't been remade so many times, not only by its own franchise, but by other creators and have copied off of it. If you go back and watch the original, it still stands out way more than Die Hard does for action movies, in my opinion.
I think the other problem is with Die Hard, it had sequels. Like in some ways, like especially when you got to Good Day to Die Hard, like in the original movie, he had he didn't have a handgun for a good portion of that movie, and then at the end he has a handgun. In Good Day to Die Hard, like he has a automatic weapon within 20 minutes, where it's like, man, what the hell?
It's like Jaws.
Like Die Hard too. There's like a whole ton of that movie where it doesn't even take place on the airport. It just takes place in another location.
Yeah, I still say, and again, like this is my first time ever watching Die Hard, and this is in 2023 as a 28-year-old who was born 8 years after the film came out.
That's a bigger headline.
And I'm saying all this because, and I'm also because even with all of the hype this movie has gotten, and how many people love this action movie and treat it as an all-time classic, even if you ignore how, a lot of these kind of things are overhyped and just, take it for what it is. As I said, it's just a really good thriller. It's a really good survival movie. It's a really good, one man, hero type of, movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's a really good movie. Is it great? So I want to make I want to put out the question, like, what's Bruce Willis's best? And we're going to go through Alan Rickman, Bruce Willis, and McTiernan. What's Bruce Willis's best movie, in your opinion?
I have not seen many Bruce Willis.
There's a lot, because I think of like Last Boy Scout is up there for me. I think
I
like. So like it's hard for me to like say like what's his best movie.
See, and I don't think that's kind of fair because it's like Fifth Element and Die Hard are completely two different films.
Yeah, and two completely different genres, like
Yeah.
too. Then you have
James.
John McTiernan who did Predator, and it's like you're trying to have me compare my children, basically comparing Predator and Die Hard.
You already
Yeah,
got
well-
you got me figured out already.
Yeah,
James, go ahead. Bruce Willis is best.
I'm looking
movie.
at his list. I don't know. I mean, I do like Fifth Element.
You see, to me, it's Pulp Fiction, but I get he's not a lead in that, so you might be like, okay, he's not the lead role, so you can't count it. Then I would go maybe with Unbreakable. I love that movie. I know many people don't, but
I haven't watched that one.
I would disagree with Pulp Fiction in him not being the star because there really isn't a star. It's, there's vignettes, and each of those vignettes has a star, and in his vignette, he is the star. So I think it's a fair thing to say that, in Pulp Fiction, he is a star.
You mean to tell me Bruce Willis has a problem with glass, Thorson?
oh, that's a good one.
Also,
I didn't even.
That actually was good. And I can't back up Pulp Fiction mainly because I'm not Tarantino fan. I think he overhyped.
Writing that.
I very much enjoy Tarantino's style. I was scrolling. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I enjoy 90s Tarantino more than I do like Kill Bill afterwards. After that, I'm
same.
Cool down on.
Yeah,
Tarantino was the first director I sought out. Like when it became like not just a movie, I liked the movie, but when I was like, this movie is by Tarantino, it's like I have to seek out movies made by this director.
Who is that for me? Huh? Who is that for me?
I don't think you ever told me.
Kevin Smith.
Oh, you love? Huh?
Oh, Kevin Smith. Okay.
Kevin Smith.
There you go.
Have you watched the last two movies yet?
The Dogma talk has been a while.
Because it was my first Tarantino film, and I watched it actually for the first time in a high school class. I was in a media class, and each of us, was able to volunteer and show a film and kind of lead a discussion. So someone did Django Unchained. So it was my first exposure to Tarantino, and so I'm still a sucker for that movie.
That's a good movie.
I think of like Hateful Eight, and I'm like, this is not your best.
Yeah, I liked Hateful Eight. I wouldn't say it's the best, but I enjoyed it. There was only one Tarantino film I've seen so far that I really did not like, and it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
My problem
I do like that because it also gave us a Leo DiCaprio pointing gif. So
but then like the rest of the movie is just like nothingness for me until like the end. It's like you have a couple funnish moments like with the whole Bruce Lee thing, but it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like nothing happens. There's no story. There's no nothing that, at least nothing that really pulled me in like other Tarantino films have.
Yeah. Have you guys watched Four Rooms? Like I get it's like not the whole movie's not by him, but that his segment is like so classic and so epic. I know it's not his idea and he copied it, but it's still execution.
Bruce Willis makes a cameo in that too, doesn't he?
I think he does.
I'm very particular, but I'm watching certain parts because I don't like the Madonna movie part like that.
It's funny. I have not seen many Bruce Willis movies, but one that as I was scrolling through Letterboxd, it's like, oh yeah, he was in it and it was really good. Quentin Tarantino directed the scene. It just wasn't one that had Bruce Willis in it. Sin City.
He like Pulp Fiction kind of revived his career a little bit.
Whoa! That wasn't Tarantino.
Oh yeah,
he directed the scene in it.
No, it was Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, but the two go hand in hand. They always back in the.
Yeah, Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, but Tarantino directed a scene in the movie. One scene. It was like the car scene. And he even got the classic, I think it's either a zoom or pull in. But Tarantino did that one scene, but the rest of it was Robert Rodriguez.
Go fig, he did.
Yeah, similar to Robert Rodriguez directing certain scenes in Tarantino movies sometimes. So.
Yeah. Or, there's what was it, Eli Roth, doing the Nazi shooting scene in Inglourious Bastards. What was the name of that actor? the guy who played Helmut Zemo. Daniel Bruhl.
Daniel Bruhl.
Yeah, Daniel Bruhl. I know I'm butchering his last name, but Eli Roth, who also was a star in Inglourious Basterds, directed like the whole Daniel Bruhl sniper stuff.
I would say one. My problem is, you're right. Bruce Willis is in 4 Rooms. My problem with Tarantino is I've seen all the same films he's seen, so it's like when I watch a Tarantino film, I'm literally like, oh yeah, I've seen it.
But it's making me want to check out the films he's seen, because if he brings all that pulp, excitement, colorfulness into it, and that's because of these films, I want to check those out. Because I enjoyed it so much in his in his work.
Like he's even in the Tarantino part. I didn't recognize him. That's crazy.
I can also tell when Tarantino has ghostwritten the movie because Crimson Tide, if you remember that movie with Denzel Washington, there's this scene where like Denzel Washington is like amashing this guy who's getting into an argument, and the private is saying something to the effect of like, well, we were talking about Silver Surfer, and he said Kirby's Silver Surfer was worse than Moby's Silver Surfer. And like, oh, this is a Tarantino written scene because I know how much Tarantino loves Silver Surfer. So like, I can definitely tell like his fingerprints were on this like scene when it was being written.
I don't know, because like I said, if you love Kill Bill, don't watch Lady Blood. Because Tarantino literally to a T just copies that like almost 100%, where you're like, really, dude? Like nothing? It's like,
Right. Directors, John McTiernan, best movie. I know Josh's answer, so you can't say Die Hard right now because I already know you'd be lying.
I enjoy Die Hard more than Predator, though.
Really?
Yeah, I did too.
Last time you were like dying on that Predator hill.
Don't get me wrong. Look, this is like
this is the greatest thing ever.
Look, one's like a 91, the other one's a 90. Like they're both amazing. But if you're making me pick one, it's like, I've seen Die Hard more times than I've seen Predator.
I probably would say Predator, but I also think that's tough too because like Die Hard, it also has some sequels I'd rather not ever have to watch again. So it's like
Alien versus Predator Requiem is a gift that we all should enjoy.
Yeah, no.
Sequels I also don't want to watch again. So like maybe I had to go with Predator.
Also, I feel like Torson's whole goal is he's like, I just want to take down.
Just chipping away. I told you I'm playing devil's advocate today, so I'm chipping a little bit on the foundation, little by little. To me, it's The Hunt for Red October. Maybe that's just a personal because I actually was allowed to watch that as a kid while I wasn't to watch other movies of that rating. I guess
like R-rated
just fans of Sean McConnery, and they're like, Sean McConnery, that's James Bond. He's fine. You can watch that. Don't watch Die Hard until you're an adult, though. But you can watch Sean.
Funny. The first time I've ever watched Blade was with my father at age 9.
It was not bad.
Watched Blade in school.
Yes, the Last Action Hero. Dang.
That's a good one, too.
I actually like that one.
There you go. But so there's a theme here, right? Like, so Die Hard is hardly in any of the lists of best movies of people in Die Hard. I'm just chipping away.
Yeah, I mean, I have not seen enough Bruce Willis films to give a fair assessment.
So wait, you never seen Fifth Element? You never seen Fifth Element?
No, I've not.
You should have that. One's definitely in my top 5.
There's a million movies, Josh, that I still need to see, and I have not seen Predator, and I know I need to see it.
Yeah, well, the other one's not the best.
You should watch Alien before you watch Predator.
Oh yeah, I've seen Alien multiple times. I watched the second Alien movie, Aliens, for the first time last weekend.
Wow. And your thoughts?
And it was really good. It was really good.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Predator. I heard 3 wasn't too bad. 4 was awful, correct?
Almost like 4 better than 3.
Watching, because there's like, if you're watching a theatrical cut, yeesh. If you're watching like the later like director's cut kind of stuff and more palatable. 4, I've mostly leans towards bad. I kind of like it in a cheesy sort of way. I can kind of laugh at it, but
the birthing scene alone in that is just ugh.
well, the punch from Resurrection kind of stings less when you have later movies like Covenant come out. So
Yeah, but then we get Prometheus, which is terrible.
that's also I mean is like the punch for Resurrection kind of hurts a lot less when you have later movies that kind of like don't do it any favors.
And here's a hot take. I think the Predator movies as a whole are better than the Alien movies.
The Predator movie's not the best.
I mean, just
Predator?
Aliens is already like knocking the entire Predator franchise out.
Predator 2, like,
the
there's
ring.
a lot of fun parts. Predator 2. Predators was a fun movie. I actually enjoyed that.
No, Prey was a good
2,
one.
I know we talked about that last month, but Predator 2 is like one of the worst movies ever made.
Watch The Predator.
Ever made? Oh, you sweet
Yeah.
summer child, you.
Yeah, thank you. Man, Torsten.
like maybe I should not ever made. There's probably a bunch of movies I've not seen. But like the worst movies that were made that had a bigger ish budget, kind of successful, and I have watched. So that combination out of
Battlefield Earth.
I've not watched that, so I can't judge that.
I've only seen bits of this Nostalgia Critic review.
You know what?
Is that the one with Will Smith?
No, this is the
John
John
Travolta.
Travolta Scientology one.
The Dutch tilt angle movie.
Yes.
Also, Torsten, before we continue Movie Club, I need you to watch Battlefield Earth. Because I need your scale. Your scale is way off right now. If Predators,
Taking notes, yeah.
See,
Yeah.
here I was about to suggest, hey, why don't we watch like an animated movie like Iron Giant and see what your thoughts on it and that? Like now I'm terrified. I don't want to do
We did the last Unicorn last month, no? Was
I
it
mean,
last
like-
month? 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Last month.
yeah, he's like, Torsten, devil's advocate. Do guns need souls?
Is Superman actually a hero or is
Depends
he just
on the universe. Okay. Alan Rickman's best movie.
Hey, Potter.
Eh.
See, that's the weird thing is he's not a lead in most movies. He's good in movies he's in. He's not bad in any movies he's in. Like the movie can be bad, he's not bad in.
And like I said,
I mean, yeah, but it's also not the best performance of that person in a movie, but the movie itself, which cannot always be to that person's credit. So I know my logic has some flaws. I admit that.
I'm going to say the movie Torsten hates the most. Die Hard.
Lionheart?
Die Hard.
Die Hard, sorry. It's like Lionheart. He hasn't been in Lionheart. Yeah. I don't hate that movie. I just it's overhyped. Like it's way overhyped. It's not a bad movie. It's a really, really, really good movie, and it's great acting. It's great
Robin Hood,
acting.
Prince of Thieves. That's a pretty good one.
Also,
Okay, but
Josh
what hyped that
Diver's
movie
making
isn't
movies all
overhyped.
night today.
You know, there's very few movies that are really hyped up that actually, meet that hype.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
put in Dogma, as just part of this movie club. We've had Dogma, and I would put in Dogma in that race. As very good performance by Alan Rickman and the movie itself, obviously.
also going to point out everything before the word "but" doesn't matter.
Yes, correct. That's what I call tell my wife all the time. Like using the word "but" it doesn't matter what you just said.
Now,
But-
okay, I'll say this.
But
I'll say this. I can really understand why people don't like Die Hard, and I can understand when people go like,
again, didn't say I don't like
we know
it.
You hate it. We know you hate it. It's fine. We know you hate American classics.
The
but it's
Germans are the villains is okay.
dude, you went down the rabbit hole of like, clearly this company's evil, so the Germans are the good ones.
No, I'm like trying to give it a spin because I think the plot as it is or the story as it is kind of flat. So I want to see some more. So I'm putting my own stuff. I'm putting my own stuff into movies if I feel like there is some substance there that I can put a twist on. So if you think the again Nagagavi or Tagagi, the head of the whatever corporation, Nakatomi Tower and Nakatomi Corporation, if they're evil, then Hans Gruber is a mastermind thief pulling off the perfect heist. Again, Ocean's 11 made a whole franchise out of this. And you just have John McClane fighting for the wrong side. But yeah.
Of course,
I have to disagree with you saying the plot is flat, considering we are spending 2 hours talking about Die Hard, almost as long as we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing.
Shit.
I mean, I can spend hours talking about almost every movie because
also,
I'll put meaning into stuff that there was never any meaning. Like when I talked to Rambi about The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, I'm like, did you mean this by putting this on the shoebox? He's like, well, a little bit, but maybe no. But it's up to the reader to put their own interpretation into it. It's like, okay, but how about this? And he's like, no.
Also, Sam came in with an open mind. He's like, let me check this out. I'm not going to say I'm for it. I'm not going to say against. I'm going to fear my own opinion. If Thorsten came in with violence, and he's going to give you all the hands I can lay on you.
If there's a little bit room for interpretation, I'll take that room.
Josh is shunning you for not loving an all-time American classic, and I'm curious. Do you have a favorite German film or a German-speaking film?
Oh, that's a good question. A favorite one. There are many good ones. I don't know if there's a great all-time best-ish one. There is The Others. That's a pretty good one.
Toy.
Say it again.
The never-ending story?
It's German, isn't it?
The never-ending story. Yeah. I think. Well, it's some corporate. No, I think it's a multiple country collaboration. It could be, maybe not. But I also didn't like. I watched it once as a kid, and I was like, "Yeah, it's all right." But my teachers were like, "You gotta watch. Like, all of you have to watch this movie now." And like, my parents are like, "Oh, this is like such a great movie." And I was like, "Eh." No, there's I'm liking. There seems to be a theme there, but like Berlin during the war, like during the Cold War. So there's The Others. That's pretty good. The red cockadoo. I think I don't know if that's translated like that in English. That's good as well. I'm trying to think other movies.
Also, saying you had no feeling for the horse dying in the never-ending story on the internet. Like, that is just asking for trouble.
I didn't say I didn't have feelings. It was just, I don't know. Wasn't my cup of tea.
Torsten, you're a tough
what?
You're a tough audience.
Your comment section.
I was asked which movies. I'm trying to think of German movies. German cinema is not that great.
Yeah, the only German director actually there are two. There's Werner Herzog, but that's just like he is very much an out there art film director. And then
he's less German because he spent more time in Hollywood than he has spent in Germany.
Yeah. And then I am feeling so embarrassed. I'm forgetting the name of this director. Metropolis in M. I'm trying to remember his name. Max something.
Oh, but that's all that's.
I know that's like very, very old. I know.
20s, 30s.
Yeah, 1926, I think, or 27 for Metropolis, and 1931 for M.
You got to think Metropolis also was, when it came out, probably revolutionized like how movies are made back then too.
Oh yeah, that especially for that kind of film, like massive production value, and obviously a lot of social commentary as well.
Like the cliche that Citizen Kane is the best movie ever made is like thrown out there a lot, but that doesn't really feel like it diminishes Citizen Kane for me when I go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Even with like the passage of time, it's just, for me, it's just something that's like sticks in my mind as like an important part of cinema, but not the most important part of it.
Yeah, I think calling it the greatest film of all time overhypes it, but it's still like a really excellently done movie that has a lot of conventions that feel so modern. And also just like does like I think does a lot of real things well.
Because the other problem is because like I'm going out on a limb here, but Sam, you've never seen The Last Unicorn, right?
Not even I've never heard of it. No.
So because it's like if Sam watches that movie, he may or may not like it. Only time can tell. But for me, it's like I have such nostalgia because I saw that early in my life. So it's like it's sometimes when you see a movie, especially when you were born, because
that's why I vigorously defend Batman Forever.
That's also
my Batman movie. That was my first Batman movie, so it's like I have that nostalgia.
You bring that movie up every time.
Hey,
it's fun.
If the shoe fits, you're talking about nostalgia. You're talking about how that colors your perception.
Hey, Josh,
Batman Forever is, my, unicorn, my last unicorn.
Josh, the difference though? Showmanship.
Right, the movie that I was talking about, not translated, like it's not The Others, it's The Lives of Others. I'll put the link in the movie club.
I would be open to doing a German movie club.
Would Torsten be up for a German?
I'm up. Depend if I can pick the movies we're voting on. Yes, because I'm not going to do The Downfall
Torsten.
or Das Boot. Like, I'm sorry that those have been chewed out already.
I trust you. I just don't trust Josh to show up. Or this.
No, he's always no.
I
gotta give credit to Josh and James. They've been here every single movie club since inauguration.
But I will say, I'd still add, I don't trust him to show up in good faith.
Oh, that's fine. We need some different opinion. That's why I'm playing devil's advocate here, because it's too boring. If we all love the movie, it's all gonna.
Whoa! What do you mean good faith? Torsten over here has been the villain this whole time.
He's the Hans Gruber of the Die Hard movie club.
Right?
You mean Josh?
No.
Well, Josh should think he's Jaws McClane. I think he's trying to be Al, though.
But he's more like one of the FBI guys in the helicopter.
That also. That could be the FBI agents. We're just messing this up for everybody.
Gotta give kudos to Al, though. Like, Die Hard, I think, is so much better because of Al. Like, if John McClane didn't have Al to play off of, and that relationship, like, I think makes this gives it a different like human angle, like a different level layer in there. It's not just action movie and he's trying to win his wife back, and meanwhile like fighting the attackers. But then it's like he's bonding with this guy who has his own problems, and like that's kind of his go-to guy, like his partner, even though they just had two exchanges and already love each other. But
there was one thing about Reginald Bill Johnson's performance that kind of stuck out with me when I was watching, which is like he had like a really nice chemistry with Bruce Willis, but when there were like certain one-liners he had towards the end of like certain conversations where like he was like in the way he was like reading those lines, felt like, someone, just like some average Joe just trying to say some like, corny line from a movie. It felt like he's sort of like overacted. And I know it's super nitpicky because he otherwise does a really good job. It just kind of stuck out for me though.
See, me, I just more miss them like in later movies where he's not in it. Because I'm thinking like, this could really use more of that human element. Like not so much in Die Hard 2, but it's like he could really use that kind of like someone that John McClane can kind of bounce off of and like be kind of vulnerable with. Samuel L. Jackson kind of has it in Die Hard with a Vengeance, but it's not to that degree. He's just more playing a straight man to John McClane's antics.
Also, you had the kid in Live Free Die Hard, even though he's not a kid.
Justin Long?
Yeah, I was going to say he was in every 2000 film.
He don't do much anymore.
I was going to say, yeah, there was a good 5 years. He was like almost required to be in every film.
Like every Vince Vaughn comedy, it seemed like.
I'm going to be honest. I don't trust anyone in this group.
What?
Except me.
What have I ever done to you?
Die Hard. You had a
what have I done?
I did not say I hate this movie.
Only because there's a Joe in the movie.
Josh,
still-
what have I
it's-
done to you?
It's still a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh, what's your ratings? To me, it's 7 out of 10. What's your rating?
I say 9.
10. Gosh, 10.
I would say 8 out of 10.
I'd be
It's on
giving
the
this
hater.
movie a 9, but I'd be lying.
Josh, you were about to say something.
Sam, you literally weren't here throwing me under the bus every chance you got. Like, look,
Make it so easy.
if you're gonna do it, commit to it. Don't be like, huh? What? Me? Why, my word, the vapors. I can't believe I'm being accused of such things.
I got the vapors.
I'm just saying, make it easy to do it.
And with that, I want to stop the recording. I want to thank you all for participating in this month's movie club, the last one for 2023. We're going to be back next year. And Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy New Year.
holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
There
Happy
you go.
Hanukkah.
That too. Thank you.